Hi, my name's Jordan Marshall and I'm Chief Reporter at Building Magazine. So excited to invite you to our first round of Social Value Live. We're really excited today to be joined by Matthew Morgan, Director at the Quality of Life Foundation, who's going to kick off the event for us today. Matthew, I think probably the best way to start things off is if you could give us a bit of a rundown on the foundation and how it was set up and what you do.
Yeah, we've been going a couple of years now, and we started because our chair, Sadie Morgan, was frustrated with the pace of change in the housing sector and wanted to focus more on people's health and well-being. Generally, the industry and government is quite short-term in its outlook, so we wanted to shine a light on those individuals and organisations committed to a more long-term approach and bring more accountability to those who take a short-term approach. So we chatted to the late Tony Pidgley, who shared Sadie's vision for a more people-centred approach, and Berkeley Group provided a generous grant to get us going. We've since received support from UNI, Grosvenor, the Crown Estate, Lovells and Elscourt Development Company, and a research grant from UK Innovation. Did some research, research innovation. We did talking to lots of people in the industry. We then went around the country because the funny thing about the housing sector is that the people that they don't tend to talk to are residents. So we went out and went around the country and asked people what we thought, what they thought made a good place to live, and with that information, we created a framework with Urbed, who were also working on the National Model Design Code, and that has created a framework that breaks down what impact the built environment has on people's quality of life across 6 themes: control, health, nature, movement, wonder and belonging. And we're now doing more research and creating services that use the framework to affect change in the sector.
So, I mean, how do you feel like the sector's changed in that intervening period? Do you think it's moving in the right direction, or do you think there's still plenty of work to go, or do you think it's both?
I think there's, in general, a much better understanding of the effect of the built environment on people's health and well-being. COVID has massively changed that because of the way in which people can see that, and also the health inequalities that that are created through differences in housing provision. There's obviously still a massive housing crisis, which has problems that are far-reaching and difficult to solve. But our hope is that by working as a critical friend to developers, local authorities and housing associations, we can involve local communities in the process and improve the housing that's being provided. So we're working on a number of different areas. The first of those is a community consultation programme with the University of Reading and a consortium of other universities, which is a map-based digital and face-to-face approach to community consultation. And that's running in Reading, Cardiff, Edinburgh and Ulster. We are putting together a leadership programme for local authorities to help them make quality of life a core objective in their work. And we're working with developers on a quality of life strategy at pre-planning to peg the framework against the work that they do. And the final piece of the puzzle is that long-term dialogue with residents that carries on post-occupancy. We see post-occupancy evaluation as critical to the creating a feedback loop for the sector, but also providing greater accountability so that residents' views can come into play, and we can work out what works and what doesn't.
Do you have any particular examples of where this is being implemented well, where it's all up and running, well, at least in part running, where the focus, is there any good examples of, best practice, I suppose, where it already has been implemented?
Well, as part of our framework, we tried to identify places around the country that already exemplified those themes that we were trying to highlight. So we've got places like King's Crescent in Hackney that put great emphasis on improving safety in the local area, and did that through more active street frontages and fantastic play street, so families feel welcome. The Mailings in Newcastle has shared facilities and communal micro allotments that encourage neighbourliness, which is incredibly important to give people a sense of belonging. You and I is working in Mayfield in Manchester to create an area that uses cultural change as a catalyst for regeneration. So there are lots of places around the country where we identified these different elements that go to making people's quality of life.
Brilliant. So I guess another one that I wanted to ask you is, why is it important that the built environment firms start focusing more on this quality of life aspect and not just, putting, I guess, the idea of value versus cost, and why is it important that mind shift happens?
I think everyone's aware of the need for greater environmental sustainability, but the triple bottom line of social value, which we help the UK GBC in their social value framework, is to support environmental, economic and social well-being, and in doing so to improve the quality of life of people. So it's focusing on that triple bottom line. We've obviously got COP26, we've got a great emphasis on move to zero carbon, but it feels like that social sustainability element is still a work in progress. We don't have minimum standards. We don't have the same kind of rigor that's being brought to it. And in terms of health impact assessments and involving communities in the decisions that are being made in their local area, I think there's still a job of work to be done. And those are really the areas that we're trying to push.
Brilliant. Okay, so I guess one of the questions I did want to ask before we had to wrap up was, where would you like to see the industry go? If we were having this conversation, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, how would you like to see things being different?
I think for a much broader section of the local population to be involved in decision making as early as possible in the process. The government's committed to improving local plans, but it remains to be seen how they're going to do that. So that's something that we really want to see. Above all else, a sense of influence or control.
Oh, sorry, Matthew, we just lost you there for a second. You said above all, and then you dropped out for a second. If you wouldn't mind just repeating that for us.
Quality of life. So it's getting people involved and giving them some kind of agency in their decisions. It's a sense of influence fundamental to people's quality of life. So we'd like to see people involved and active in their areas, and then we'd like to see that conversation continue all the way through to post-occupancy, so that there's a real sense of the lived experience of people integrated into the process. So it's not all kind of pounds and pence metrics. It's also what people think and feel about where they live.
Brilliant. I think I might wrap up there because we're just having a few little connection issues. But there is plenty more to come for Social Value Live. So if everyone can please check our agenda, there's plenty more still to come today. And I'd love to thank Matthew for his time. A really great organisation, and I'm so glad to get involved today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.